What I'll do here is refer to your previous reply for your original context from your debate with Godless Engineer, then further respond in accordance to your responses to me. I see that you've changed the images to throw me off, so I might end up with some content misplaced. I have projects to work on, so take what I give you. I'll get some superficial stuff out of the way first here. First off, why did you use the Sepultura album cover when you addressed me, and not simply just text my channel name there? Sounds like you were afraid to say, the unholiness within. Second thing, you've worsened my audio. I'm guessing the Darth Vader image was intended as an insult? I actually have a better microphone and interface now. Still though, that's low on your behalf. Then there's a petty straw man you throw at me, claiming that I like you a lot. No. I simply came across you through Godless Engineer, so I decided to break you down. I now focus on 4 other people.
Well, we're off to a good start. I mean, I don't think I'm the only one who sees the potential for best friends here. The only question is, bracelets or t-shirts? Anyway, so he agrees with me that there shouldn't be a ban, but he thinks that the Christian gospel is so immoral that anyone who believes in it needs professional help. Let's see what else he has to say.
Well, referring to my first video response, you've avoided my first 2 replies. The first, which I mentioned God creating life to play his game, which I criticized as sick. The second, which I simply ask you why you support God, as God punishes for not submitting. You obviously either can't or refuse to answer that question. I mention this because you talk about me criticizing the gospel as immoral in a tone that suggests that I'm out of my mind, saying you believers need help, while I clearly explain why the gospel is deeply disturbing. Aside from that, you move on to my next comment, without explaining anything or presenting me an argument against my words. If this is all you're going to do, why did you bother producing this video? I mean, you don't say anything of substance here, so there's no need to refer to your original context. You've just discounted your own words.
It's very clear that the gentleman does not like what's contained in the Bible, and the idea of God requiring obedience and faith is an offensive one to him. However, I'm not sure what the actual issue is here. A human judge should punish criminals for breaking the law, right? Wouldn't we all be upset if a man like Larry Nassar was not punished for his crimes? Well, of course those with authority and jurisdiction should uphold justice, shouldn't they? And we've all broken God's law. We've all failed to love our neighbor as ourselves. We've all acted selfishly. So why should God not hold us accountable for our wrongdoing? A recurring theme here is the gentleman's aversion to the idea of submitting to or worshiping God. And while I appreciate his honesty in saying that even if someone could prove the Christian religion true, he wouldn't want any part of it, I would point out from the Christian perspective that every breath you've taken, every good day you've had, every good thing that's ever happened to you, every morning you've woken up, every coherent thought that you've been able to make, and every good thing you've ever done has all been from the gracious kindness of God, even though you clearly hate him. And despite all of your thanklessness, if you were to turn and repent today and trust in Jesus as your sin-bearing sacrifice, all of that would be forgiven. You'd be welcomed in as a beloved son in the kingdom.
Alright, you do attempt to make an argument here, to which I ask, are human judges gods? Did any of these judges create life? No? Then how is this a valid argument, Ross? As for God, if omnipotence can't do better than us, being the creator, what can and why do you not question this being? I mean, don't you think if God created life that behaves properly, he wouldn't need laws? I should actually say that there is a bad similarity between our legal system and God, that bad similarity being that neither of them are designed to correct human behavior, only to judge and punish. Not only that, but you then try to fallaciously turn this against me using false guilt tactics, saying God has given me all of these good things, which I should be thankful to him for. This is bullshit because 1, I didn't ask God for anything, and 2, there is still an ultimatum, which means a never-ending consequence if I don't make a choice. How is this ultimatum a form of kindness on God's part? Why do you love God for punishing those who don't submit to him? Again, though, what the fuck does all of that have to do with your original context being the political problems of a ban in the indigenous cultures?
So I would be wrong to embrace the Christian gospel, even if it was true. One question. Is that according to some objective standard of morality? Or is that according to your own personal preferences and feelings? If the former, I'd love to see it. If the latter, thank you for sharing your personal opinion.
Quickly going over the two of my parts that you've skipped, because I don't want this video to be long, I first ask how this gospel is sharing ideas. If this gospel is about submission to God or be punished, adding that you'll never stop supporting this God. I then ask how you're being fair, telling everybody to submit. I guess you couldn't answer those questions either. Instead of asking me which perspective of morality declares this gospel to be wrong of anybody to embrace it, why not explain to me and your viewers how this gospel is humane and why you're right to embrace it and shove it into everybody's face? You're the one defending your position. I'm only criticizing and breaking your comments down. Another avoidance to respond with anything of substance.
Well, not quite. Some people are certainly worse than others, though we all do fall short of God's standards. And it's true that God is not required to bless any of us. He doesn't owe us any kindness. But in human-to-human interaction, we do have inalienable human rights. I cannot harm you or your property or your family because you're sacred. However, in a naturalistic worldview, there are no such things as human rights. So you literally don't deserve any kindness from anyone. If someone harms me or my property or my family in a naturalistic worldview, they haven't actually done anything wrong. I may not like it, you may not like it, but why should the discomfort of certain descendants of shellfish matter at all?
Your original context here was that, quote, all culturally held beliefs, values, and worldviews are not equal. What does some people being worse than others, as you ignorantly insert a picture of Gandhi, of all fucking people, and God not being obligated, and then rights and property, all have to do with cultural beliefs, values, and worldviews not being equal? You're all over the place. While God may not have any obligations, he had no business creating life to serve him against its will. You disagree? Speak for yourself. I can say that because I'm confident Christianity is not the truth, even if it is, there's nothing I can do about it, and I don't care if you're happy that I'm in hell, because you and your psycho kind all belong with God, as long as I'm away from all of you. Also, while you state that God doesn't owe us anything, why do we owe him anything, as this gospel suggests? And why do you agree that we all do? If you're enjoying your afterlife in heaven, it's probably not my style. If you are doing what I like, why is it a sin here on earth?
Unintentionally, though. And I do agree, the Bible clearly teaches we all fell in Adam. But I would have to wonder a couple things. If all cultures and value sets are equal, then a culture who believes in original sin is no worse than a culture who does not believe in original sin, like your culture. And secondly, I understand that you don't like the Christian gospel, but why should your personal preferences dictate international policy? And here's the last clip I'll play.
Yes, unintentionally. Would they have disobeyed God if he didn't manipulate them by putting that tree in their environment, and if that serpent didn't instigate? You don't agree with me that their disobedience was unintentional? Explain how it was intentional. I shouldn't have to ask you. Also, answer my question. How does Christianity improve any culture's worldview? That was your original context in the debate. I didn't ask what the Bible says or about a comparison of a religious culture's position on sin or a non-religious culture. I mean, you asked me before which perspective of moral, so you give me an answer from your own mind. Oh wait, you're biased. I forgot about that. Aside from all of that, what does international policy have to do with the tyranny of expulsion for one screw-up, without trial or a second chance, along with everybody else to ever live, be cursed with original sin, with the obligation of an eternal ultimatum? Answer my questions, Ross.
So the aspect of Christian theism that is immoral is that God expects obedience from all people, and that he will punish all disobedience? We have yet to hear any justification for the gentleman's moral opinion, but again, if all cultures are equal, and there are cultures who would have no problem with this idea, why is your cultural belief that this is immoral more true or better than another cultural belief? All of the gentleman's comments about the biblical God have been deeply misrepresentative. The idea that God is the stoic tyrant who demands submission and obedience from all his subjects or else completely ignores the biblical teachings about God's patience and grace, how kind he is to redeem any individuals out of a species that hates him in some cases and disregards him in others, and above all, the teaching that the king and judge of all the earth left his throne. He was born into the world as one of us. He was the only one who lived a perfect life, doing what we all failed to do. And rather than receive his fair and earned reward, he received a criminal's execution, taking my place and the place of many others, so that anybody who would...
Why am I obligated to justify anything, when you're the one with the position that people should submit to God and that God's way is moral and righteous? You're responsible to explain why, as the representative, as I'm only a skeptic, questioning your position. How is the expectancy, from an omnipotent creator specifically, of obedience a rational mindset? What part of disturbing other cultures by preaching at them to submit to a God or be judged and punished did you not understand? How have I misrepresented the Bible in any way? What is God then, if demanding obedience is not tyranny?